Hello, welcome back to the value of everything. Now, there's been a lot of turbulence in the global markets. There's been a lot of trading sell-offs. Apologies for this. Let's reverse out of here. I need to demist my windscreens as well, and some people like to just drive right up my end. Alright, so there has been a global sell-off. It's been happening from the weekend. It's been carrying over to the next couple of days, and it's really looking rather all the same, I guess. We're having problems in terms of our... Sorry if you can hear that. My windscreen is just demisting. I think that should be better. Okay, right. So we're having problems in terms of a lot of margin traders are getting out of the market in China because they have been margin called, and the Chinese government is trying to prop up the market because their motives is credit expansion and an improving economy, and they don't necessarily want to start bailing out people. However, they are using pensioner funds money now, so they are actually putting the liability of people's money into the throw of the mix, which is going to potentially create bring out a whole can of worms. Then we have the Americans. I noticed Apple stock, which had been doing incredibly well over the years. Now the technology stocks are not looking as good anymore. I guess technology does seem to have more of a leveraged effect when the economy goes very well and very bad. I guess the technology products are probably the last things that you really want to invest in, and you potentially want to go into more of a safety stock mode, which would be like your food goods, materials, things like that, land, farm goods. Yeah, so it's defense stocks as well. So yeah, it's all looking a little bit 2007 again. And I guess there will be just the general, what's the solution? More QE, here we go. And then there'll be another little session of QE, but the QE has to be even more so bigger than ever before. And then we see the slow drip dry of our economy, maybe a little bit of a liquidity pump into the banking sector and the investing sector and the stock markets, or some kind of asset bubble goes a little bit higher for a little while, but then there will be just the real sort of reality of the markets where there is actually unemployment in the market, and really just throwing loads of money into the system doesn't necessarily help the fact that there isn't any customers to purchase products. So whereby there really is like more liquidity being passed amongst the banks and the investment grade, so the businesses seem to be running and not failing too disastrously. It's really private debt, people's personal debt, which is really dragging down the economy, and obviously unemployment as well, which is dragging down the economy at the same time. Even though statistically it doesn't look too bad, statistics are slightly being meddled with, and even in terms of things like inflation and other indicators, if the governments can't really measure it too well, then there's no real way of managing it too well. And as you can see, when they used to measure usually they looked at house prices as an indicator to governments have used house prices as an indicator of changing interest rates, but then they changed the inflation rate to not include housing, which is the largest asset anybody could purchase, and remove that out of the basket of goods in the CPI index, and therefore, or whatever inflation index there is, and then be disguised to any rapid inflation that is happening in the market, and just continually lowering down interest rates to create even further asset bubbles. So there you go for centrally managed, centrally planned economies. So today's topic will be in terms of if we do have this continuous decline, and potentially at some point where the people go, we can't afford any food anymore, this is getting a bit disastrous, then the economy doesn't have any option but to actually increase the value of their currency. Or if they do not have any other option, and once they've depleted assets like gold and maybe certain sell-offs of land, then they have no other option but to just increase the money supply further, which is what sort of they're doing with quantitative easing anyway, but they're just sort of increasing liquidity supplies to the higher echelons, and they're purchasing their own debt products, which is the government's issuing out bonds, which is a debt to pay back any investors in the future with the taxpayers' money. And currently, because there's no real humongous demand for bonds, they use quantitative easing to print money and purchase their own debt, which is lovely. Not really. So this is going to be quite a useful podcast in terms of if you are a little bit more forward planning, you do not mind taking a little bit of a step forward and pursuing certain ideas and businesses and being a bit of an entrepreneur. Definitely just look into the options that I'm just putting out there, and there obviously where you're going against governments, there is obviously a lot of bureaucracy potentially at some point that you may face, but there's also the potential of an incredible amount of profit at the same time, and an incredible amount of, where I say profit, that's always a byproduct of the amount of value that you have generated for the world. So it is a sort of topic of technology and governments, and I have covered a few of these little parts before, but I think these are very fascinating and could be very vital in terms of if you do have a government which is down on its knees, it doesn't have really much capacity to do much other than having its military force, probably just keeping hold of its military force, but then making a load of promise notes to the future for the military force and all this kind of stuff. You could have governments in very desperate situations, and really the free market can come to the government's aid in terms of supporting the populace and really help the free market can help rejuvenate and restart the economy as a whole. And potentially this is one of the theories that I may have, is that we may find that a lot of the elements of governance may not be as required as what we've foreseen in the past. And we may keep a few little elements of the government, but we still may have or we may be able to sort of find a way where we can literally get to a point of no requirement of government to an extent, because we're in control of like doing voluntary trades and things like that without any sort of concerns of uprisings and violences and questions of who owns which land and property rights and all this kind of stuff. So it's an interesting phase in our lives, and whenever you find yourself in this amount of dangers and like there's a severe point in time in our lives, we may have the biggest opportunities in our life at the same time. So turn these things around. We have potential to turn things around. If you think of the 2007 crisis, whoever this Teragoshi man was, he had thought of an incredible plan to revolutionize the world in terms of creating a Bitcoin ledger and called the blockchain, and obviously the Bitcoin transfer of value system. So we may find opportunities which arise which we didn't perceive before when things start to go sour for us. And here is some certain things that could come in place, some things that could come in place. So I would like to just mention before, I'll give some other technologies which could come in terms of what the government might decide to do in terms of trying to keep the balance of the books and keep the status quo going, or maybe just trying to use a few technologies just to keep the economy sort of working in certain ways and shapes and forms. But I still fully believe that a free market capitalist sort of system would be the best solution in terms of heightened efficiency and to pull us as all global citizens out of this rut of continuous credit expansion to just balance the books of the governments. Now, one little technology I just want to mention from the part of governance is they may decide that this Bitcoin, and obviously you've got banks as well. Banks are looking at this technology, very much so the blockchain, more so than the actual Bitcoin, and more so of the centralized nature of it rather than the decentralized nature of it. So I'd just like to mention this one. Watch out for the terms and the phrases of the government coin, the Govcoin. Now, the Govcoin basically is going to be an idea which will be put forward by certain governments to say, okay, well, we may have a solution to a lot of the world's problems of money supply and stuff like that. We can orchestrate things with this cash, and we can do quick conversions, and there won't be depreciations of money and things like that if we can create a blockchain which is controlled by the centralized use of force, which would be the government. Now, just got to be quite wary of that. I mean, but the thing is, obviously, if you've got Bitcoin anyway, I mean, really, what would really be the total purpose? Now, the one area which we could say, and this is the one opportunity in life which could be incredible, and obviously in a lot of these areas we do need collaboration with governments as well. We can't just say, all right, government, we're just going to set up our own little society and hey ho, here we go. Government obviously is currently the rule of law in terms of property rights. That is the fundamentals of morality, one of the fundamentals of morality. If we live in a world of no property rights, then we do start to descend into a lot of chaos. People may think, and obviously communists may think, that it's a fantastic idea to extract all the wealth from the rich people and bring it down to the poor and see how. And then everyone gets a fair bite of the cherry. But there are certain reasons why rich people can be rich and why poor people are poor. There are a lot of reasons, and we have seen plenty of times before where you give, where somebody wins the lottery and they have had really not much training in managing money and resources and things like that. They find themselves in difficult spots after a number of years and almost file for bankruptcy. Some of them are reasonable. Some of them can manage their money, but there is certain reasons why some people have a few more resources than others. It's just one of those ways the system works, and it's a good thing that farmers own farmlands and not me, because I don't really know how to run a farm. So it's just one of those things in terms of productivity and efficiency. Okay, so this is one of the this is the one thing that can really convert us over and does sort of give us the ultimate free market in terms of trade. And this is property rights. If we can have a digital signature of property rights converted into a decentralized form, then and obviously this obviously smashes law and a lot of other things at the same time. If we can allocate in a blockchain ledger, so the blockchain is a lot of things. I can go into a long list of items of what it can be, but let's just say that the blockchain is a digital form of an accounting ledger. Okay, so let's just name it as the Bitcoin ledger. Now, if we say that this Bitcoin ledger can use, say, the government's data of business ownership or whatever it is at the moment, but with collaboration with the government, say, okay, government, we know that you have all the you basically have the deeds and the rights to all the land in this country. Can we just convert that over to the blockchain just so that we have a mirrored matching system of this tool, just in case that if anything goes wrong in terms of the government, it can't afford to carry on, there's certain issues and things like that, and you've got problems managing your military forces, whatever you need to do to keep the borders peaceful. Can we just look at this law element? Because this law element is going to be bloody expensive for you guys, and we can really do some incredible things. Now, obviously, I don't know how much the government's going to go, oh yeah, have this. But if there would be a way to rewrite the deeds, titles, and ownerships of land onto a blockchain, then you do have incredible things. Now, obviously, one of the questions you may have is certain people may come across and say, well, I do not recognize the blockchain as the real signatory of or the definite title holder of all of this land. So you could have quite a few people who have assigned their property to the blockchain, and some that who haven't. But what you potentially would require is a certain time or a certain way where the government and the deregulation of the blockchain. Now, obviously, if you have Govcoin, the Govcoin may potentially do this at the same time. So you've got to be quite a little bit careful of this one. And obviously, this could be a massive solution for the government. It can make them a lot of savings if they do have a digital signature of property rights. But also, if we had a decentralized version of property rights, that does incredibly change things as well for the better in a lot of moral ideas. So yeah, I don't think there's a way that we could just say, right, okay, let's. It's like me writing, okay, I own these stars in the universe and stuff like that. It just doesn't really, as much as I can start writing down that I own all these star systems and stuff like that. It really isn't very applicable. Sorry, I can't say the word. So the real important thing here is a little bit of collaboration is going to be required with governments anyway. They do, obviously, they are the holders of this original ideas and things like that. And if there is a certain level of collaboration of property rights, if people could get the ideas and the deeds of the property rights and say, okay, government, we're going to do this free thing for you. We're going to just do it for you. You don't have to lift a finger. We're going to digitally sign all of the property rights and deeds into the blockchain. Just don't worry about anything, and then we can work it from there. Obviously, the government may go, not sure about this too much, but they might do it on the terms of Govcoin. Maybe the Govcoin could be the pathway to this digital signatory. Obviously, the reason why you do sign things to the government is obviously the government is the chief arbitrator of any issues. If you have an issue with somebody putting a fence across your land, you can go to that person and go, let's take this up with the law courts and the law courts of the government, obviously, and then the two lawyers would have a go at each other until they could review what the actual titles and deeds were, and then they would keep on going at it until they found the solution and worked out, okay, this is exactly the borders, and here we go. And they give you like a little blueprint, and there you have it. Now, obviously, we've got great technology around at the moment. We've got Google Maps, and Google Maps can imagine if you could get a version of Google Maps with a version of property rights, and property rights that could convert over to oceans and air. And I know this sounds a little bit crazy. I've mentioned this in previous things. You can own air. Governments own air, but you can own air and you can own seas. and to certain depths of seas and to certain heights of air, and you could own to certain depths of land. Obviously, there's all different ranges and things. Obviously, a three-dimensional plot chart of certain things that you own could be amalgamated into a blockchain system. Now, it may require a Govcoin system to do that first, but regardless of that purpose, I wouldn't recommend still having the use of force. I would preferably have a free market element, whereas there's a decentralized version of property rights, so that we don't necessarily have people that are in power that can manipulate things, and one day you own all of this land and the next day you don't own all this land. So if we do have a decentralized signature of property, so it's the same, basically it's the same principle as a Bitcoin. So obviously if you own a Bitcoin, there's no way in hell anybody can get it off from you unless they have worked out a way of cracking cryptography, which I don't think they have, unless they've they've managed to work out time and space travel and can go through so many combinations that they can eventually crack it or whatever. But property rights can be just assigned a signatory. So you've got an accounting ledger that you own. Let's just make it very simple. An acre of land somewhere, and that acre of land is protected by cryptography, so that nobody else can take or remove that area of land. So it's really interesting in those terms. And say that if anybody was to start building across your land, you could go to the blockchain and go, hey ho, this is my property. And then you can request that that person is removed. Now, obviously, here we go in the terms of the use of force, and we could have certain insurance companies and a lot of things like escrow systems and a number of different like services that could be provided to implement certain changes and requirements that would be okay in the terms of civil law when it comes to blockchain technology. So, I mean, like this is the terms of government coin. So, government coin could come in and go, okay, well, you're on the wrong piece of land. Let's go to the law courts now, and the law courts say, yeah, that's okay. Now we're going to get the police to remove you. All those kind of things. You can use the hardline uses of force. Now, if you are on the blockchain, you could potentially have a certain system where if you are insured and you have a system where people are protecting you, and I imagine to do any kind of trade on the blockchain technology, you would, and to purchase land or sell land, or to even rent a house, you would need a certain level of insurance just to protect you from any situations that would occur. So I would imagine there would be a level of collateral or a certain premium that you would have to pay, or put like some kind of deposit down with an insurance company, so that they could give you and offer you a certain level of insurance for any situations which could occur. So that would be fantastic. Now, if that was the case, then if that person was to build on your land or move a fence across your land, my insurance company, let's just say it's a totally free market, my insurance company would contact the other insurance company which the person was assigned to. So we would have a decentralized version of one person go to the other. Obviously, I mean, I could just remove the fence if the person's no longer there anymore. But if the person is there, obviously, I could just say, sorry, I don't think you should be here anymore. Please, can I get your name? And we can just work this out with our insurance companies. And then the insurance companies can investigate the two deeds. They can obviously very quickly work out where the blockchain states who owns which part of land. And then the insurance company would, the one that would be in the wrong, would have to go out to the person that they're protecting and say, look, we found that we're actually in the wrong here. We need to move out of this area. this is incorrect thing. You don't really have title deeds to this point. There are all these different options to you. If the worst comes to the worst, there potentially will be charities that will be able to give you shelter. But regardless of that point, you can obviously request that thing. Now, I guess in certain things of civil liberties and everything else, maybe insurance companies would say if that person owns a ridiculous plot of land that he never really uses, and then after a certain frame of time, then somebody starts to build a little shack on it and stuff like that, and maybe he's producing farm goods and actually getting a productive level of thing, that is a certain level of homesteading. So potentially insurance companies may recognize homesteading as a viable option, like a squatter's rights and things like that, and that's a general common law establishment thing that could be put in place. And therefore, if that was the case, then there wouldn't be mass exploitation in those perspectives. So, yeah, interesting points. Obviously, we're down the route of legalities and laws, but really, this does rapidly change the way that we view things. And obviously, if we start looking at property rights, we can obviously put ourselves on this ledger as well, because we are property in ourselves. We possess our own bodies. And therefore, if anybody is to injure our body, then obviously the insurance and the collateral could go back to the other person and go, hey, you have injured this person, and please may we, and we need to take off your collateral, and for you to just generally trade, you need much more of a higher capital requirement, and all of these little nuances which could occur, which really just this sort of point of conduct and violence and digital signatory to the people does sort of lay up very big questions in terms of the rule of law and governance and everything else, and the rule of police, and the rule of the law courts, and the people that separate the title deeds. So here is a lot of technologies which could be put in place, has a massive value in terms of what could happen. The moral method would be the most promising method. Obviously, even if a government coin was to launch and would have the element of title deeds on it as well, I mean, I don't think governments are very slow in terms of catching up with free market technologies, but imagine if they did, then I think there is a method of just copying the entire blockchain of the government and just in building that into a decentralized method. I don't think the government would be too pleased about that, but even so, you could do that into a certain shape or form. So, yeah, we have this incredible method which can nullify, well, not nullify, but just it can offer us incredible solutions which can change the world and really reduce and increase the efficiency of mankind, really improve resource allocation. Then we would have, obviously, much better ways of trading. I can't even, I've never really purchased any land myself, but I can imagine that if I wanted to buy a plot of land in the middle of nowhere, it would be a little bit tedious in terms of trying to get the government on your side, paying taxes, levies, doing surveys and everything else. And I'm sure in your insurance company, if you was in a decentralized assigned blockchain environment, then we would have potentially what's my train of thought gone? I've lost my train of thought. Sorry about that, folks. I've just lost my train of thought. Never mind. We can carry on. We can carry on. So, yeah. Where a government would fail, and when I say fail, I just mean in terms of it just has a ridiculous amount of budgetary constraints. all of the bonds, they can't really, they can't sell any further bonds, so they can't get any more liquidity, so they go into further sense of failures. So literally governments do have to start at some point sell off their land or sell off any kind of thing that they have just to maintain a certain level of governance. And this sell-off of land could be very interesting in terms of selling possessions of the government. Now, this could be another method of just like a very nice, easy, free market method of just saying, here's the blockchain technology. Could you sell me your good, so your land? And we don't even have to put it onto the government portal. We could put it on the government portal, but also I want to, as a voluntary measure, I want to just put it onto the blockchain. So whenever I purchase anything, I'm just going to make sure it's backed up on the blockchain at the same time. Now that could be a fairly decent and friendly way of just doing things and how you manage your business in the future. So you could say, okay, I'm just going to register this on the blockchain as well as me registering this with the government, and that could be a nice, easy way of doing things. But so, yeah, interesting stuff. Imagine if you were to set up a website right now where you could say blockchain signatory and work out a way to map and convert the blockchain to work out all the land and seas and airs, and work out a way to schmoozy with the government so you could get the digital signatories working up. That is an incredible service that you can provide, and the more competitors that try and provide that service will have a much better freer market and a better conversion and an incredible feat in terms of technology in that way. So hey ho. Now obviously if we do have incredible problems with the economy, we have a major problem, an incredible problem with the welfare system. Because really schools have been inefficient over times, and if you are creating citizens that do not have any economic value and they are continuously working on the dole and things like that, we have major problems. So this is just one little idea that I may have for the welfare class. This isn't for the elderly. The elderly I have is a little bit more trickier, but there is certain things that can happen in terms of charity, but I will come back to that at some point. But in terms of welfare, say the government has gone broke and there is no more money in the pot, you may require a certain level of an insurance type business which comes in and it's like a risk management business at the same time. So say if I run a business, I could say, okay, right, so there's loads of people, there's tons of labor out there now. So there's tons of labor and they can't get any work. And obviously these previously were on welfare. So you would come in, and obviously these people would be in a fairly desperate situation if we could say that there was no welfare or welfare was dramatically reduced by government measures. I know businesses sort of set up like this, and they work in collaboration with governments. Remember, this thing isn't just us, just like this big free market power just taking over the world. It's really just, it's going to have to be a real, very e-commerce sort of collaboration thing going on here in a very peaceful manner. Nothing to do with violence or taking over. It's all about peace and voluntarism. But we could find, okay, so a company would go, okay, right, you're on welfare and now you've got no welfare, so you come around to my business and okay, all right, okay, so what can we do for you? So I need to make a few assessments. I'll just give you a few tests. I'll need to sort of see your sort of comprehension. I would basically have to set up an incredible way to school you in an incredible rapid amount of time. So where schooling for this person may have taken 10 years or more, this business would basically have to say, okay, well, I'm going to give you money now so that you can sustain yourself in terms of food, or I'm just going to give you food for now, but I will require certain levels of tax or whatever to keep you in the future. Now, obviously, people might think, okay, this is exploitation. You can't give this person. But if that person's got no option, and the government's not giving them welfare, or they're in a desperate situation, this ain't exploitation. They've got the only other option they've got is starvation. So this company potentially could come in and is providing a service of survival, and they will say, okay, well, I'm going to really accredit and work out what sort of qualities you have right now, and what is the quickest way possible, or what is the best way that I can return my capital investment in you in the shortest period of time. So we would put that person under a number of tests, would see if they've got any ability of being sociable, got any charisma, have got any sort of analytical skills, any intelligence skills, all these number of things, and then try and work out, or physical strengths, or any number of things. There must be some kind of applicable value method which could happen from that person. There will be something. There's always a service that could be provided for the minimal cost benefits or anything like that. There will be an efficiency measure at some point there, particularly if they're competing for the lowest wages. And there are tons of jobs out there which I get granted it does take a little bit of experience to get to a great stage, but there's a lot of training which doesn't require too much, and they can become very competent, maybe in security, whatever is required. So they take a number of measurements. They would say, okay, right, I'm going to give you food and sustenance, maybe even shelter for this period of time, and in those terms, when and if I find you employment, then I will be required to obviously take a certain percentage out of your wages, maybe 10, 20%, whatever is required or agreed on a voluntary level. So that person is basically has like a sign, and maybe that company actually is sort of the people that actually come to the contract agreement, so that the payment goes to them first before it goes to the people. Obviously, I'll be very wary if I was a person of how long I'm signing off for, but their job would be to get you a massive return on investment in the shortest time possible, much better than what the welfare system would be, which would be just to give out handouts and not really convert that person to the job market. But that company would be just rapidly trying to work out, okay, what's the quickest way we can do this? How can we convert this? All this kind of stuff. They're just looking at different skills, sets, everything. It will be just basically really high-level education on roids, and really having an ability to convert things over. And maybe they're trying to do little side businesses on the side and things like that, but it will be a total free market push of somebody, and it could really revolutionize the way that welfare systems could work. And obviously a welfare structure system would be as if somebody comes over and they're desperate for work, they would need to find return investments of these people as soon as possible. Okay. I mean, okay, I guess in some ways that they might have a little bit more competition in terms of a lot of the middle classes becoming unemployed, and obviously they'll be a little bit more prized to others. But where you have plenty of free labour force, there's all definitely lots of options for them to be used. And I always mention I understand about technology and outsourcing and everything else, but there is the humanistic side which cannot really be perfectly matched by an AI technology. So the human part and the virtuous side of people is going to be prized. So, pardon me, do practice on controlling temper, controlling like instant gratification, and being as generous and as kind as possible to your fellow person, and you will find yourself fairly employable in the future. If things do really get quite incredibly bad, then there will be private charities that could be set up to help people. I'm sure the people that have that may have been profitable in situations where the economies have failed, these business owners that have worked out these different schemes and systems may be able to find different ways and methods to help other people out. So we are in the world of if we do have a lot of government failure, we are in the world of creating value for other people. and it really is about how we can create the most amount of value for other people. And there may be, if we're very lucky, a byproduct of a monetary reward for that value creation, which would be beautiful. So yeah, just to run over a number of other things. So I guess if we had insurance companies and we were very concerned about rioting and people stealing goods because they're in a desperate situation, there would be a lot of insurance in terms of, well, insurance would be quite prized after, and prevention would be very much so requested. So there would be a lot more in terms of how to reduce the amount of violence in the world. And we would be really having to assess where these causes are coming from. Maybe not the drugs, but maybe the people that are taking these drugs, and maybe the people that have affected these people that are taking these drugs, maybe the causes of violent inclinations. So a full assessment may be required, and there could be different countermeasures of insurance companies to say, okay, maybe they might want to put up billboards up to advertise about peaceful parenting and how to be good to your fellow citizen. Just like, imagine if an insurance company was doing the healthcare sort of side of things. It's like you would think, okay, yeah, only the government sends out these adverts of not smoking and all that kind of stuff. But we could have a situation where insurance companies, obviously, there is a value benefit of not having somebody being violent and disrupting the world, smashing property rights and everything else. Nobody really wants to go through the blockchain. So yeah, it could be an incredibly beautiful way that privateers and a voluntary method to start really improving and curing certain ills of society. And really the major pointers would be that of to reduce violence and increase morality and increase virtue. So and obviously, insurance in itself is a weird thing. Everyone thinks, okay, insurance must be like the boringest thing in the world. But insurance is a certain level of delay gratification. You are looking to restore wealth and really give up things in the now so that if anything dangerous happened to you in the future, you are provided with a certain level of care. There is a lot of like government involvement with insurances and things like that, and it's really a lot of bureaucracy going on as well. So if somebody could, if you're an entrepreneur and you could think of incredible services which could really stretch out beyond the reaches of what the government could do, say this, you could have an insurance which just says alternate governance insurance, which really just stretches beyond the measures of assisting people if violence happens, and obviously you do have healthcare and things like that, but I'm talking in measurements of a lot of other things which insurance can come in and really help society in a lot of ways. So if an insurance company puts a billboard up and says, be good to your family and violence to your children is bad, so please refrain from smacking and screaming and shouting and losing your temper with your children, and try and be balanced, controlled, and really reason with them. And then obviously advertise on the same side of that coin. It's really not that incredibly bad. I mean, obviously we do have sort of bad-ish advertisements when it comes to like children's TVs, and they're trying to sell these really ultra sugary cereals or these very instant gratification sort of toys. But regardless of that fact, we could see a lot of an overhaul in terms of how things which we thought governance really was the only measure and the only method to is the only method that really could sort of do these things, or it's the only option for us. Now, in a true free market voluntarism world, we do have the ability where we can build applications, we can build virtual things, which can come to the aid of man and really help us out in terms of getting through this absolute economic debacle, which we're currently in, and it's going to go on for ages and ages until people get these ideas and really start to say, right, okay, we can't keep on working to the finding a solution for the government, because the government really isn't sort of the solution to these things. Maybe the government is probably creating a bit more of these problems if we do have a centralized power source. Maybe we need to think differently, and really if people just start being self-motivated, use their own self-knowledge, and really try and improve things to create value for other people in a beautiful voluntarism world, we can overcome incredible obstacles and give us a incredibly bright, beautiful world for every person on this planet. So yeah, there's some ideas. Obviously, there's an incredible amount of ideas which could span from that. If you've got some other great potential government collaboration conversion ideas, then please put them out there. Really, it would be good to just get those ideas out. Obviously, if you've got this fantastic business idea, and you want to sort of just keep it to yourself so you become very rich and all this stuff, I mean, it's your prerogative, but I really think we really need to work together and help spread as much value as possible, because we're going to need it. We need to push this value thing as much as we can, instead of this panic and fear by ourselves, and this selfishness to sustain this tiny level of sustenance, whereby if we become selfish really and really decide to be selfless, because if you think about it as much as you can, if you want to be selfish, you really need to be selfless and provide for others, and then the value gets returned in an exchange of goods and means. So we could really get ourselves to a point of real collaborating, and the more people that are spreading this value and really helping us each other out, then it is the quickest way that we can get out of this mess. And if we imagine if your mind, my mind, all these other minds really start working together, we only need a 1,000, and what's 1,000 on a population of a number of billion? So it really just need a few of us, and we could just create an app, and that could be a globalized measure of the app anyway. So obviously, I hope there's a lot of competition against our apps, but it would be an incredible feat, and really all these people and designers that are creating all these instant gratifying applications like Candy Crush, it would be good just to take a step back and look at all the other models and run through them and start working on methods. So yeah, here I give you certain levels of potential solutions. If there's any other solutions, any other ideas which we can put forward, please put them in the forum. Please share them out, put them on YouTube, put them on your podcast, whatever you want to do. And yeah, let's try and change the world for the better. Thank you very much for your time, as always. Keep on sharing, keep on spreading, and I will see you or speak to you very soon. Goodbye.